We live our entire lives, for the most part, mistaking ourselves for something we are not. We learn our name before we learn the stars. We memorize the coordinates of our home before we understand the coordinates of our mind. We identify ourselves with the labels that have been handed down to us: a name, a nationality, a profession, a body that will one day return to dust. Yet the truth is, these are not you. They never have been. When people meet me, they see a scientist, a physicist, perhaps even a symbol. But those are not me. They are artifacts of perception, useful in conversation, but insufficient to contain the totality of who I am. You too are not simply the labels you wear. Your essence is something far more expansive, something that cannot be reduced to syllables or statistics. In the vast mathematics of the cosmos, your body is not much more than a temporary vessel, a finely tuned arrangement of stardust, animated for a fraction of time. If your body were taken from you, who would you be? You would still exist. If your name were forgotten, who would you be? You would still exist. Therefore, neither your body nor your name defines you. The question, then, is this: who are you? Beyond the labels, beyond the form. Most people never truly ask this question. They are carried along by the inertia of life, reacting to circumstances rather than consciously shaping them. Studies, both scientific and philosophical, suggest that 95% of human beings live their lives on autopilot. They wake, they work, they sleep, and they repeat, never interrogating the deeper structures that shape their thoughts and actions. From the moment you were born, you were conditioned. Your earliest moments were an immersion into the patterns, beliefs, and limitations of those around you. You learned to walk by imitation. You learned to speak by repetition. And perhaps without realizing it, you also inherited the fears, doubts, and mental boundaries of the environment in which you were raised. This is the first great barrier to self-discovery, your conditioning. The second is your environment. We are creatures of adaptation, and the human mind is astonishingly plastic, but that means we often unconsciously adapt to the expectations and mediocrity of those around us. It is no surprise, then, that so many live lives that are smaller than what they once dreamed. But here is the extraordinary truth. At any moment, you can begin to rewrite the code that runs your life. To do so, you must begin with a simple yet profound act. You must decide what you want. Not what your peers want for you, not what your family thinks is realistic, but what you want. Be precise. A vague wish is like an uncalculated trajectory. It will never reach its destination. Define it with clarity. Write it down. Carry it with you. Look at it daily, until it becomes etched into your mind like the constants of physics. I have spent my life exploring the nature of the universe, yet I can tell you that the most complex system you will ever attempt to understand is your own mind. The human mind is an unphysical instrument of extraordinary power. It can imagine realities that have never existed and bring them into being. Every human achievement, from the theory of relativity to the first steps on the moon, began as an image in someone's mind. What images dominate your mind? If you were to hold a mental picture of yourself as joyful, capable, and creative, and feed that image with deliberate thought, your life would inevitably begin to shift toward it. Conversely, if you allow your mind to be dominated by limitation and fear, your life will reflect those boundaries. Here is a paradox. You are already rich, in the sense that you are endowed with limitless potential, yet many live as though they are bankrupt in possibility. They focus on scarcity rather than abundance, on reasons why they cannot rather than how they can. But the laws of reality, much like the laws of physics, respond to consistent direction. If you hold your focus on what is possible, you will begin to notice pathways that were invisible to you before. Throughout history, the great minds, Newton, Edison, Curie, Einstein, each shared this trait. They thought differently, they questioned, they imagined what others called impossible. They were willing to stand apart, to endure skepticism, to make waves in the still waters of convention. They did not seek difference for its own sake. They sought truth. And truth, I have found, is not found by blending in. It is found by aligning with the deepest patterns of your own mind and following them, even if they lead you away from the crowd. This, however, requires courage. Human beings are wired for social belonging, and to think independently can feel like stepping out of an airlock into the void. But if you do not think for yourself, the world will think for you, and it will not always have your best interests at heart. If you truly wish to know who you are, you must do 3 things. First, decide with clarity what you want to create in your life. Second, hold that vision in your mind, rejecting thoughts of limitation the moment they appear. Third, act in alignment with that vision, even if perhaps especially if the people around you do not understand. Seek knowledge, but do not gather it as one might collect trinkets. Organize it, apply it. The value of learning lies not in accumulation but in transformation. The Latin root of the word education, educo, means to draw out, to develop from within. You are not a container to be filled with information. You are a field of infinite possibility to be awakened. I have read thousands of books in my lifetime, but only a few have altered the structure of my thinking. Among them, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. I did not read them once and move on. I returned to them again and again, because each reading revealed something not only in the pages, but in myself, something that had not been there before, or perhaps had been hidden. In physics, we often speak of the observer effect, the idea that the act of observation alters the observed. In the same way, the act of revisiting an idea with a new level of awareness alters the idea and alters you. You see new connections. You perceive patterns where before there was noise. This is why self-knowledge is not a destination but a process, a lifelong journey of observation, reflection, and recalibration. The universe is not static, and neither are you. At every moment, you are a work in progress, rewriting yourself through thought and choice. But this process demands attention. Without it, you will default to the programs of your upbringing and the habits of your environment. You will live someone else's idea of life, not your own. And that is the real tragedy, not failure, not struggle, but the slow erosion of your unique potential until nothing remains but the shell of what you might have been. You have reservoirs of creativity, intelligence, and courage that you have not yet tapped. Do not wait for life to force you into awakening. Decide now to test the boundaries of who you think you are. There will be those who call your vision unrealistic. Let them. The history of our species is the history of the unrealistic becoming reality. At one time, it was unrealistic to think that we could harness fire, cross oceans, split the atom, or map the human genome. Every advance began as a fantasy, the kind that lesser minds dismiss and greater minds pursue. Fantasy, properly directed, is not escapism. It is the blueprint of innovation. When you imagine with intention, you are not daydreaming, you are designing. So I will ask you again, do you know who you are? You are not your name. You are not your profession. You are not even the collection of memories that you call your past. You are the architect of thought, the sculptor of possibility, the observer through which the universe becomes aware of itself. When you understand this, you will no longer be content to drift. You will choose. You will create. And in doing so, you will discover that the question, who am I, is not answered in words, but in the life you build.